Hi everyone, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you're having a great start to the week. I hope you did enjoy all the action that came our way during the course of the weekend. Plenty of very promising results. Chelsea, genuine title contenders. Manchester United, not surprising, there as a bit up against Man City. So many results that have led to the sacking at least of two managers. Anyways, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for those of you that took the time to watch our lengthy episode for our first guest on the channel. That was with Melvin King there. We'll be seeking out more voices, especially from you, the fans. Those of you that do have your favorite teams in the Premier League, do not even hesitate to reach out if you think we should have a debate on your team, and I'll be glad to host you. So thank you for those that took the time to watch that lengthy episode. Forgive me about the audio there. I know there were issues there to do with the echoes bouncing back, but it's something that we had not anticipated. It's not something we realized in the course of the interview. So unfortunately, we had to upload it as it was. So apologies for that. We hope to do better next time, and as we hope to do more episodes with other fans out there in that regard. But anyways, here is a quick review of the results from the Premier League over the weekend. Of course, Arsenal did share the spoils with Everton in a goalless draw in a very, very disappointing result on the weekend. Personally, I was quite dismayed. I think by the way the manager handled the game, Arsenal struggled to create chances. They hardly troubled Jordan Pickford. Of course, it's a game that he came into knowing that Everton were going to be quite very defensive, and that they did. If anything is to summarize the game, it was typically haram football. There was nothing that the game had to offer. And I did think that Everton, when they had the opportunities to go forward on the break, they sort of moved with a lot of caution. They did not bet on themselves to go ahead and try and find that goal that could have eventually won them the game. They seemed very intent on simply frustrating Arsenal and making sure that they do not concede. So the game ended goalless. Now, as far as the starting 11 is concerned, that is with respect to Arsenal, there were not so many surprises, but particularly for me, it was that of Thomas Partey, especially in that midfield. Now, of course, given what had transpired in the course of midweek as Arsenal beat up against Monaco by 3-0, I think the manager thought he did not need to tinker his midfield because it had delivered in that game against Monaco. But if anything, there is one thing that he forgot, that he was returning back to the Premier League, where the context is a bit different from that of the UEFA Champions League. He did ignore the fact that he was going to play a very physical team in Everton, a team that we all know does win headers. We all know they're very physical because many of their players do have the heights. Yakalenko, Diakore, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, James Tarkowski, all those players, and of course Idris Gana Gueye in that midfield. And then so he played Mikel Moreno at the left midfield, a player who is also still really trying so hard to find his best footing in the Premier League. Yes, he did deliver in the course of midweek in that game against Monaco, but I thought over the weekend he fell short. And then the substitutions he made, withdrawing Martin Odegaard, yes, he was not having a very good game, but given the kind of team that he was playing, yes, the addition of Ethan Nwaneri was quite commendable, but I thought it did not necessitate the withdrawal of Martin Odegaard to bring on Ethan Nwaneri, especially when you're trying to search for a goal. Of course, Gabriel Jesus didn't offer anything when he came on, and then in some moments I thought Leandro Trossard was very slow in terms of his decision making. He gave a lot of time for Everton to reset back in terms of their defensive lines and all that thing, because Everton really defended in numbers and they did that brilliantly well. So of course, Jordan Pickford was called upon on a few occasions, and yeah, he was high, but you hardly remember a goal scoring opportunity that Arsenal created, and you're like, wow, that was close. And then, of course, the conversation of lacking a striker does rage on amongst Arsenal fans. That is pretty much expected, and it will go on for as long as Arsenal cannot find the back of the net. Like I said, I think in some of our analysis at the start of the season is that Arsenal's need for a striker is not necessarily for their lack or failure of scoring goals in terms of quantities, but a striker is that kind of player that will be the difference in such games. We did see that against Fulham in that 1-1 draw. Maybe if they had a striker, the result could have been different. We're talking about the same thing on Saturday. And then again, that creative midfield, you feel that every time Martin Odegaard catches a cold, the rest of us, sneezes. Like if he doesn't perform, then their creativity dies with it. Ethan Nwaneri came on, didn't offer much. Bukayo Saka struggled to find, a strong footing in the game and all that kind of thing. So Arsenal may need to look for options elsewhere in the January transfer window. But according to the signals being sent by the manager in Mikel Arteta, he does say that if they do have all their players recover from injuries, most of them who are defenders, by the way, then he seems to signal that they may not need to do any transfer business, but I beg to differ on that, especially considering that you let go of Emile Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira, some of the two players that were your creative midfielders. Never mind that they both suffered with lots of injuries during the course of last season. Anyways, you guys do let me know what your thoughts were on that particular game, but I thought it was a huge blunder for Mikel Arteta to leave out Thomas Partey in that starting 11. And even when he brought him on, he played him at right back. Yet I thought he needed him in that midfield, not just to fight for the ball, but to find that long pass to try and, bring his creative mind to that team that was so much lacking in the course of things there. And then moving forward, of course, like I mentioned in the preamble, Liverpool did share the scores with Fulham there in a 2-2 draw, in a game that many thought that Liverpool were on the verge of losing by 2-1, but Diego Jota salvaged it there for the table leaders in Liverpool. That means they do drop more points, but then Arsenal, their supposed title contenders or competitors, who never, of course, took the opportunity to leverage on that result. But Chelsea did leverage on that opportunity when they later won their game on Super Sunday, as we will see subsequently. But it was Cody Gakpo and Diego Jota that ensured that Liverpool walked out of Anfield with a point, while Andres Pereira and Rodrigo Muniz were on target there for the Cottagers on the weekend. So very entertaining game that they did deliver there, but we'll move away very fast from that. And then, of course, we did watch Newcastle beat up against Leicester City by 4-0 as Ruud van Nistelrooy was being condemned to his first defeat of the Premier League as a Premier League manager there. Remember, he had been interim boss at Manchester United before switching allegiances to Leicester City, where Steve Cooper had been sacked. So he did suffer his first defeat of the season there, as Alexander Isak was, of course, on target. I think Jacob Murphy on target, as well as Bruno Guimaraes there. So that was the other interesting result. Moving forward, Wolverhampton Wanderers were beaten 2-1 by Ipswich Town, which subsequently resulted into the sacking of manager Gary O'Neill. So this is a team that now is in the search of a manager. They've sort of struggled with managers ever since the leaving of Nuno Espirito Santo a couple of seasons back. When Nuno Espirito Santo left, they brought in Bruno Lage. I think he had formerly been in the Portuguese league there, and then things didn't work out, of course, eventually. Then they brought on Julian Lopetegui, for whom, again, things didn't work out with his bosses eventually, and they had to let him go. And then, of course, Gary O'Neill did come on as an interim, and then he was eventually given the role after his prowesses at the tail end of last season and saving them from relegation. Unfortunately, results have not really gone their way this season, whereas Gary O'Neill is one to blame or to point a finger at. I do not think it was entirely on his shoulders, given the limited transfer business that Wolves did showcase during the course of the summer, and yet they've over the time let go of some of their very, very better players including Pedro Neto, who they let go to Chelsea in a deal that was believed to be worth about £60 million. So that didn't really help them that much. Anyway, moving away, Nottingham Forest did come from a goal down to beat up against Aston Villa by 2-1 there. Anthony Elanga scoring to win it for Nuno Espirito Santo as his team moved back into the top 4 there following that 2-1 victory. I must say it's not a result I saw coming, but I did appreciate the manner in which Nottingham Forest really fought for this one. And then moving on Super Sunday, in a surprising turn of events, Crystal Palace seemed to be scoring more goals away from home than they do at home, because they were beating up against Brighton and Hove Albion by 3-1 over the weekend. And then Chelsea beat up against Brentford by 2-1 there. Very, very interesting result. One that did see them end with a man down. Marco Cucurella being at the receiving end of a red card at prior to full time, but that won't really pinch them a nickel, because they do have the kind of squad that has the leeway to replace any player at whichever point for such suspensions, or even if it is an injury. So that result was a very, very big result for Chelsea. Brian Mbeumo scoring the only consolation there for Thomas Frank's side, while Marco Cucurella, like I did mention, was on target, as well as Nicholas Jackson. Then, of course, in the biggest game of the weekend, Manchester United did come from a goal down to beat up against Manchester City by 2-1. Joshko Gvardiol was on target for the citizens there, as Manchester United did concede from a resultant set piece there. Of course, they floated in a corner, I think, by Kevin De Bruyne, which was well defended, and then that ball does get back into Man City's good possession, and the ball is floated back in, and Joshko Gvardiol was at the end of it to head home. And then, in a surprising turn of events, very late on in the game, Manchester United do win a penalty that is converted by their captain Bruno Fernandes. A very spectacular penalty he did take there to beat Ederson Moraes in goal. And then I think about 54 seconds between the restart, in celebration of that equalizer, United go up front, and Amadou Diallo does flip that ball over Ederson Moraes, of course, who misjudged the flight of that ball, and then he scores that goal, that ball into the back of the net to win it 2-1 for Ruben Amorim's side, as Ruben Amorim recorded his second victory against Pep Guardiola in about just a month. Remember, his first had been a 4-1 victory with his former side in Sporting Lisbon there in the UEFA Champions League. That means Man City in 11 games are still counting just one victory, that 3-0 victory against Nottingham Forest about over a week ago. Yeah, so, and then they have as many as 8 defeats and 2 draws during that spell of results. And then the other result was Tottenham Hotspurs, who did beat up against Southampton there. I think Pape Matsa, Dejan Kulusevski among those on target, James Maddison with the brace, as well as the captain Son Heung-min, they are on target for Tottenham Hotspurs, a result that ended into or culminated into the sacking of Southampton manager Russell Martins. I think this one was writing on the wall, given the very, very poor results that have gone his way ever since the start of this season. I think they've only managed one victory this season. If I'm not mistaken, they did beat up against Everton by a 1-0 a couple of weeks back. So, anyways, match day 16 does continue on Monday Night Football when FC Bournemouth host West Ham United there. So, 2 teams are looking in the search for new managers, that is Southampton as well as Wolverhampton Wanderers. But whichever manager they should deploy should be well cognizant of the problems that lay within those clubs, beyond just the squad members that they do have. But the writing was on the wall, I think, pretty much for both managers, that anytime soon they could be facing the sack. Another manager that may be sort of walking on a bit of eggshells, given on the mood that we are starting to experience amongst the fan base, that is Ange Postecoglou. He is not the only one, but at least he is one of those. Oliver Glasner, he's not in the clear, in my view. And then, of course, a section of Arsenal fans are beginning to wonder whether Mikel Arteta is the manager that can guide them to silverware. That's a topic we will have to discuss entirely in another, full episode. But for now, allow me to keep it at that. If you're new, do not forget to comment, like, and share, as well as subscribe and turn on your notification bell. Welcome our new subscribers. Welcome to the community. Stay blessed. See you later.